we saw such an explosive battle before. You were in amongst it, but across the line, Alaphilippe came in, draped over the barrier.
Yeah, we saw that.
I managed to take a little snap, but he was absolutely drained. Kreuzweig the same. And also Geraint, when he came across the road, he was mobbed by the press. And he said, just give me some space, give me some space. He had to ride up, come back. And then he, again, so amenable with the press. But an unusual atmosphere, but there's still that kind of electricity about the Tour de France. And probably the most explosive stage today, I reckon.
Yeah, and you're talking about the amount of effort the guys put in. I mean, obviously, I watched it on the TV, doing the TV stuff with Orla, but Alaphilippe did his usual thing. He tried to go with the attacks of Pinot at the foot of the climb. G did his usual trick, and Sean Kelly actually called it on the TV, and once G got dropped, said that I think that's the end of his Tour de France. But amazing, G was, at that point, I've said quite for a few days now, G will time trial from where he's at to the summit. He will just continue riding at the same pace as the others accelerate away. Now, as the others accelerated away, obviously Bernal went with those attacks. And G said afterwards, obviously you heard the interview, where he was stuck between a rock and a hard place because he felt he had the legs to go. And it seems strange that Ineos, where did the communication break down there that G was able to attack? I mean, who's the leader at this stage? And Sean said what we were probably watching was, that lack of confidence maybe after yesterday, even G himself not really knowing where he was at today.
Yeah, it was off the back of that question, I asked Geraint, did he wait to make his move near the top because he knew it flattened out? And he said, yeah, but he still thinks he should have gone a little bit earlier. And like you say, the experience he had yesterday is going to learn a lot from him, but he's also going to be a little bit cautious. He doesn't want to push himself into the red, especially given how strong Pinot was going. But Bernal, being a purer climber, reacted to the accelerations of Pinot, eventually got ridden off the reel with Manny Buchmann, but still finished 20 seconds in front of Geraint. But when it flattened, that's when Geraint started to get into TT mode. And the last kind of couple of K, it was flat to the finish, but they're only about kind of 2 or 3%, and that's when he really started to push on and actually reeled in Alaphilippe and eventually, dropped him.
Amazing, really. I think that's really lined him up now. I think G is in prime position now to win this race. If he carries on riding like that, and if Alaphilippe carries on riding like that, he's not going to win the Tour. There's just no way. He hasn't got a team. We saw Enrico Mas as well today get dropped or sit up. We don't quite know. I was watching the French coverage with Jackie Durand, and Jackie was saying that they seem to have some sort of meeting last night between Lefebvre and the DSs, Alaphilippe and Mas. Mas is leaving the team at the end of the year, second in the Vuelta last year. Maybe he was told he wasn't riding the Vuelta. Maybe he came into this race thinking he was the team leader for the GC, switched halfway through that now we're going to go for Alaphilippe, and then there may have been some sort of protest from Mas because Viviani was still there riding while Mas was getting dropped. I mean, it seems odd. It
is, and Mas the day before the stage of the Tourmalet was riding really, really, really well, exceptionally well. He looked healthy. He took the white jersey from Egan Bernal and then completely capitulated a day later, which is a little bit unusual. And we haven't had any information through from Deceuninck Quickstep about whether that's illness. But we do see politics play out in the Tour de France because it's midway, it's transfer season. So that's fascinating. But what it did ultimately was, whatever the reason, it left Alaphilippe pretty isolated. And again, watching the last 20, 30k at the top of the climb, he had to drop back a few occasions to get gels, to get bottles. And all those small things at that level, as you well know, Brad, just takes it out of you, doesn't it?
Yeah, he's got no team. And I can't believe that we're going to sit here and see someone win the Tour de France next week. Not only the way he rides, going as deep as he does every day, but literally with no team. I just can't see it happening. Ineos today, their big improvement was having Wout Poels there. I mean, we saw the calming effect that had on G when Poels was there. He set the tempo. He set it for quite a long way up the climb, and I think that's G's used to that. And I think that was a big plus today for Ineos.
No, definitely. Dylan van Baarle did a pretty good ride on the lower slopes of the climb as well. But I spoke to Poels at the top. It looked a lot happier. He said he was finding his feet and was able to do a lot of work actually.
There was some talk that he had the 2 bob bits earlier in the week.
Yeah, I mean,
which is Nibali's had the same. I spoke to Tristan Hoffman that there was some talk that he'd had that as well.
There's a few riders that have had it. There's a few riders that have really struggled in this Tour de France, and it's exceptionally interesting. But the thing I liked, if we just dwell on Geraint for a couple more minutes, was his interview at the end again. He was joking around afterwards. He had that glint in his eye, and he was happy to answer questions. And again, he wasn't sat on his bike warming down. He was stood up, leant against a lorry with all these people crowding around him. I was actually balancing on his bike. There was a rucksack that he was kind of half stood on. Really unromantic, raw kind of atmosphere. But he was a gentleman again. But there was a bit of a glint in his eye, and I think he's taken a lot of confidence from finally seeing Alaphilippe crack.
Yeah, and there'll be lots of talks tonight and tomorrow. I'm sure Dave and the team will put their heads together they'll come up with a stronger plan next week now. I think they've seen the G they wanted to see today after yesterday. Bernal's a gentleman as well, as you know. You spoke to him. He'll be under team instruction next week, and I'm sure there will be a firmer, more fixed plan for Geraint next week. Now they've got that confidence. They've got a week to go. Geraint is prime position now to win this race. And if he keeps riding the way he does, keeping that composure, keeping that cool, he's limited his losses to perfection this weekend. And it actually, although he lost time to Alaphilippe yesterday and gained time on him today, he's the one who looks like you say, not just off the bike, but on the bike as well. The one who's got the strongest team and is going to go on to win this race. The other one I was really impressed by today is Stefan Krauswijk as well.
Yeah,
he's
very,
really
very solid.
riding a good, mature, composed race.
He's got good teammates. George Bennett rode exceptionally well. He had another rider, Laurens de Plus as well, who I spoke to, lovely guy. Lean, riding his first Tour de France, was exceptionally
Everyone's
good.
lean.
But yeah,
There's no fat people in the race.
There aren't many overweight people in the race. No, as you say. But the thing that's special about this point, it's not just about Ineos. Okay, Geraint is in a good position, but you've got Kruijswijk's going to believe he's got a chance. Thibaut Pinot, arguably right now, the strongest climber in the race. So all of those teams are going to take it to Julian Alaphilippe. It's not just Geraint Thomas against Alaphilippe. It's these other teams as well.
Where's Pinot now? It's 153 down?
Well, let's have a quick look at the GC. Pinot has moved back to 150, and you think about what he lost in the crosswinds.
Amazing.
He lost over 2 minutes. He'd have been in the Maillot Jaune right now.